Hey everybody. So yeah, today's Sunday and I said I was going to relax today, but no, there's never really a day to relax. I catch sleep when I get it. If I'm awake in the middle of the night, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and check things and think about stuff. I actually work 24/7 and I sneak in hours of sleep when I need to. So I could be taking cat naps like different parts of the day. And since I don't really have a schedule, I can afford to do that. So anyways, I've been going through my news feed and I've been like everything on my news feed since I'm part of the holistic world, as far as the different groups and the people and in the conspiracy world. Basically, everything on my newsfeed has to do with how Bill Gates is so horrible, how the COVID-19, oh my God, we're social distancing, we're doing this, the statistics from that, as well as then all the different cures that are out there that people want to go and promote. To then, it's a hoax, it's just, another way to suppress your freedoms. So I'm really immersed in all of this, like 100% immersed. I can't help but think and feel and watch and strategize. And so I'm part of this, COVID-19 watch group, and they're talking about vaccines and Bill Gates, or how I think DeWine is saying that we're not going to be going back to normal anytime soon. That's our governor, Ohio governor. And people are going like, that's bullshit. They want to go back to normalcy and it's not going to happen. And so then people are saying like, well, until we get a vaccine. That's what he's saying. It's not going to happen as far as going back to normal until we get a vaccine. And then the responses were, oh, that's bullshit. That sucks. I'm not ever going to get a vaccine. They can go F themselves, all that stuff. And I'm just like, you know what? The anti-vaxxers, I made a comment because I just had to make a comment. I said the anti-vaxxers are going to make it pointless no matter what. And then someone had to respond to me and say, don't call us anti-vaxxers, call us vaccine injured. And then I'm like, no, you're not vaccine injured. You have predispositions, which I'm sure pissed them off. And they're like, no, I actually watched my child change right after that vaccine. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Well, when people get the COVID-19 and they start getting symptoms and their body starts changing, how is that any different? When someone's in the hospital, they change before their friends and family's very eyes. They were once a very relatively healthy person, and now they're in the hospital under a respirator getting intubated. And so you're saying that so it's like, so a virus is going to change somebody if they have predispositions. No different than a vaccine is going to change somebody. And then she goes and says, oh, but it's all the mercury, it's all the aborted fetus cells, it's all the monkey, whatever. Okay, it's all the different eggs and proteins, basically your environment. What's in these vaccines along with the actual virus or the attenuated or the dead or the live, whatever, is an actual international environment. Instead of you going to Africa and being exposed to the African viruses out there, it's in a vaccine. So in case you mix with somebody who's just been to Africa and they're carrying a virus mixed with all of their DNA, and people are having sex out there, people are eating foods out of restaurants where someone doesn't use gloves and they may happen to cut their finger and flesh gets in the food. So guess what you're eating? You're eating someone's DNA all the time. Whenever you go to a potluck, how much DNA is in that potluck? Do you actually know how they prepare that food? Do you know the hygiene levels of the people at potlucks? How much aborted fetus cells, if you want to call it that, is in your food supply? Not because they actually took an aborted fetus cell, but how many cells of a human is in your food supply? So that's what's in a vaccine, is basically your international environment. So that way you don't go into a public place, mix in with some international person and die from exposure from them. Okay? It's your microbiome. It's the international, vaccines are basically representation of an international microbiome. And so yeah, you have to know how to adapt to the world, because we live in a global economy. We don't live in these compartmentalized societies where there isn't people, where there isn't anybody mixing. People are mixing all the time. People are having sex with each other. They don't wear condoms. They're getting pregnant left and right. Men having babies with 12 different women. Women having babies with 12 different men. I mean, we're mixing DNA all over the place, and we're eating DNA. We are exposed to animals. We're exposed to monkeys. I mean, the blood types is, so your blood type tells you what you're holding on to as far as your biochemistry. Okay, so your biochemistry is either going to allow you to release the excess antibodies, or you're going to be holding on to them, and that's called antigen. And blood types are surface marker antigen. So blood type A is surface marker antigen A, blood type B is surface marker antigen B, and then you have the type O, which is basically no surface marker antigen, and then you have the Rh factor, which is a plus or minus. Are you testing positive for the rhesus monkey gene, or are you testing negative? Your biochemistry will tell you whether or not you'll test negative or positive. And so all of that, the type A and B are holding on to antibodies, okay? That then is causing then predispositions. It's causing obesity. It's causing all of the diagnosable diseases that are out there, okay? So when you actually change your blood type, which is possible, from type AB positive to type O negative, you have probably won half the battle. Now the rest is to get your biochemistry all aligned and balanced, and your microbiome in balance, because you're releasing the excess. And that's when you can start seeing an actual alignment of your body, mind, and spirit, where you're actually proportional, okay, to your everything. Everything's proportional. You don't have you're not lumpy here, you're not lumpy there, you're not gaining weight here, you're not gaining weight there. You don't have diabetes, you don't have cancer, you don't have disease, you don't have chronic illness. Okay? And so even though, vaccines aren't like nutrition, it's not like, you're going to become Superman, but you might if you have a very strong body that can handle that upgrade. But what happens is that people are exposed to the coronavirus and they're dying because they have predispositions. People who are getting a vaccine with the coronavirus, and also the microbiome, which is the environment, they're having complications or they're dying because they couldn't handle the environment anyways. They couldn't handle the vaccine. And so it means if they couldn't handle the vaccine, they definitely couldn't handle the environment if they were to come upon it by happenstance. Okay, so that's how you have to look at vaccines, is they are an example of an international environment that you don't want to happen upon by accident and not be prepared to deal with it. Okay? So when someone talks about the adjuvants in the vaccines, the mercury, the other minerals, formaldehyde, it's all minerals. It's all the elements, compounds on the periodic tables. You eat elements and breathe elements every single day, and yet you're still here. You have a filtration process, okay? That filtration process is supposed to work to your benefit so you can handle, a potential upload of more of a condensed environment here. And then you have mucus let okay, that's too much of that environment. You need to get out of that environment. If you're in a polluted area and you're started your eyes watering and your nose is tearing up, or your nose is running and your eyes are tearing up, then maybe you should get out of that environment, because that's too many elements overwhelming your body. And then hopefully you have something that tells you time to go. No different than when you go into a gas chamber, a tear gas chamber that do in the military, right? They tell you that they have the Army guys experience what gas chambers are like, so that way they don't use tear gas on people without knowing what it actually is doing to them. Okay? So, your body will let you know what you can handle. But if you have predispositions and a sluggish immune system and a sluggish lymphatic system, then you're going to be holding on to antibodies, and those antibodies are going to cause imbalances. The antibodies are there just to balance out the body, to make sure no excess viral data, does a number to you and has that virus data take over your body. Those antibodies make sure that you don't have too much mercury in your body, that it balances out and attacks certain, cells that are that were triggered by an imbalance in the minerals. And so antibodies against cancer is like trying to stop cancer cells from replicating. And so that's why there's antibodies. But if you don't know how to release those antibodies that are trying to control the cancer cell replication, then those antibodies agglutinate and then they reinfect the person. That's why it's so important to understand jelly juice, and why waterfalls are important, to understand why the micro and macronutrition in the jelly juice, the electrolytes, the water, the probiotics. Okay, it's not antibiotic. It doesn't produce antibodies, but it'll bring up antibodies that you've been harboring such deep down inside, and it'll bring them to surface, and you're going to have to revisit your past. Okay, you're going to see things that you've been harboring for that were so traumatic that you've suppressed, and it's going to come to surface, and you got to deal with it. Okay, so I've been harping on this whole thing with the vaccines. Let me tell you, my book that's out right now that I'm going to be discontinuing in June when my next book comes out, I take the anti-vax stance because I was coming from the standpoint that the vaccines were to blame for everyone's predispositions, but that is not the case. The vaccines are only representation of the international microbiome, and people aren't really prepared to be exposed to someone from Africa, from India, with all these different exotic diseases. So if they say, hey, you're going to go to, like I went to China, and they said you should get a vaccine for the yellow fever. I got the vaccine for the yellow fever. Yes, I was a little under the weather when I was in China, but I didn't have any rapid antibody accumulation. And this is in 2003 during the SARS epidemic, or on the tail end of it. So I wasn't allowed to fly in country because we were going to go to the Natural Wonders place out there, but we were just stuck. We had to stay either in Beijing or Guangzhou. And so we didn't go on to that next tour group that we were scheduled to go to because of the fact that we had a fever. Okay. But but that's what they say. If you're going to go to an environment that you've never been to and they have their own diseases, you've got to get some kind of protection so you don't die from a preventable disease. Okay. And that's the same thing with these vaccines. It is representation of the international microbiome that you're going to inevitably be exposed to, and you want to be prepared for that exposure. All right? That's it. I had to get that out, and I'm going to make this another chapter in my next book. Have a good day.